Hi, my name is Joshua Sorrell, and today we will be covering the mirror horizontal method. This method, what we are doing, is we are trying to mirror the top half of a picture onto the bottom half, as if there was a line going between the top half and the bottom half. So I have a little example here. We have our friend Bob, right? Poor Bob. We're trying this out on him. What we're going to do is we're going to try mirroring the top half of Bob to the bottom half, as if there's a line going through. So we're going to have that line going through, right? Just for example, top and bottom. Poor Bob has no more smiley face because he only has 4 eyes, because the top was mirrored to the bottom. 4 eyes now. Poor Bob. Sucks for him. Bob seemed like a nice guy. Okay, then what we're doing is we are saying pixels, which we are saying it's a 2D array, right? Because of those 2 different brackets. Might be hard to see for you. We're saying pixels is equal to this dot get pixels 2D. Get pixels 2D, all that is doing is that is referring to the method get pixels 2D, which gets a 2D array of the pixels from our picture. So let's say these were all the pixels from our picture, right? It's doing is getting that 2D array and calling it pixels. Pretty straightforward. Then we say pixel. Pixel is an object. It's pretty much saying each pixel, right? Pixel. Pixel top pixel equals null. We are not saying, the reason we say null is because we are not trying to set top pixel to a certain pixel, because top pixel is going to constantly be changing in our for loop. We do the same thing with the bottom pixel. We set it equal to null because we don't want to set it to anything right now because it's going to be constantly changing. Int height equals pixels.length. The reason I crossed it out, just to make it more clear, we know pixels.length is 6 because the dot length 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know that pixels.length is talking about the amount of elements. We're talking about this column, right? It's not talking about the last index. And because we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last index is 5. We know the dot length is 1 more than that, which is 6. Okay, because it starts at 0. Okay, then what we say is for the first for loop, int row equals 0. Right now, row is equal to 0. Pretty straightforward. Row is less than pixels.length, which is 6 divided by 2 minus 1. So row is less than 2, right? Pixels.length, 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3 minus 1, which is 2. And then row plus plus. Okay, so then we have this for loop where we say int column equals 0. Column is less than pixels 0 dot length, right? So we are trying to talk about, or we are trying to pixel 0 dot length is trying to get the length of this row, right? Because it's saying 0, 0 of this row, right? We know that this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. So pixels.length is 5. Remember, we are not talking about the last index. We are talking about the amount of elements. And because arrays start at 0, we know that's 1 more than the last index. So we don't really have to count it. We just know that the last index is 4. So we add 1, which is 5. And then we say column plus plus, which just adds 1 to column. Remember, it just adds 1. Okay. Same thing with row plus plus. It just adds 1. Okay. Then we go on to say bottom pixel equals pixels height minus row minus 1 column. Right? So let's say we're running through this piece of code for the very first time. So row is still equal to 0. Column is still equal to 0 because we have not added 1 yet. We are just going through it for the first time. Okay? Bottom pixel equals pixels height. We know the height is 6 minus row. Row being 0 still because it's just our first time going through. Minus 1. 6 minus 0 is 6 minus 1 is 5. Which means we are talking about this row right here. Right? The 5th row. And then we specify the column, which is still equal to 0. So we're talking about this row. But column 6, that brings us 0 and 5. That brings us to this pixel right here. So we are saying bottom pixel equals row 5 in column 0, this pixel right here. Then we say top pixel equals 0, 0, right? 0, 0, which is the top left pixel. So this is top pixel, this is bottom pixel, right? Pretty straightforward. Okay. And then all we have to do is we say that bottom pixel dot set color. So we're just setting the color of the bottom pixel. It doesn't matter what color the bottom pixel is. We're changing the color of it, right? No matter what, we are changing it. If it's red, we're changing it to red again. That's too bad, right? So we're setting the color of the bottom pixel to whatever the color of the top pixel is, so, because we're doing top pixel dot get color. So we're saying top pixel dot get color. For example, if this pixel right here was red, then what we would be doing is we'd say bottom pixel dot set color red, right? And now bottom pixel is red. If this was blue, now bottom pixel is blue, right? Now that we have reflected that and we have gone through this for loop, we say column plus plus, right? Now column is equal to 1, not 0, right? Because we did column plus plus. And then we run through this for loop again. Remember, this whole thing is a nested for loop because there's a for loop inside of a for loop. But we have to finish this for loop first before we can go back to add 1 to row. So row is still equal to 0, but all we're doing is adding 1 to column, right? So we still know, now we're setting bottom pixel equals pixels height minus row minus 1. Because row is still equal to 0, we're saying height, which is 6, minus row, 0 minus 1, meaning that, which is 5, right? Meaning that we are still on row 5. Still on row 5. And then we're saying column, and now the column isn't 0 because we went through the for loop once. We went through this for loop right here once. We are adding 1 to column, so column is 1. So we're talking about row 5 and column 1, meaning this pixel right here. It's pretty straightforward, just going in depth to make sure you understand. So we're talking about this pixel for bottom pixel, top pixel. Pixel is row being 0 and column being 1. So row 0, column 1, this pixel. So top pixel and bottom pixel. And we're doing bottom pixel. We're setting the color of bottom pixel to whatever the color of top pixel is, right? And we keep on doing that for this entire row right here. This is where this part is really important because we say column is less than 5, right? Because pixels 0 dot length, which means row 0 dot length, which is 5, right? We say column is less than 5. The reason we do that is because we do not want to go into a column that does not exist, right? We don't want to go past the length of this row. If we were to do that, we'd be trying to set colors of columns that don't exist. We're going to get multiple errors on that. That's just sad coding, right? We want to stop right here. That's why we said column is less than 5. Not less than or equal to 5, but less than 5. So that we just go to 4 as our max, right? So we go through all 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We set the color of all of these bottom pixels to these top pixels, right? So we've reflected that to that. Now, because we have finished this for loop for the first time, we are now going to go back to row plus plus. So now row is 1, right? And we're going to do this for loop again, but this time row is 1. So we're still going through each element of the array, but we're doing it in row 1. We're still going through all the different columns, but in row 1, and because height minus row being 1 for bottom pixel, right? So we're just subtracting 1, right? So we're talking about these two rows right here. Now that row is 1, and we're subtracting 1 this time, so instead of 6 minus 0 minus 1, we're doing 6 minus 1 minus 1, which is 4. So we're talking about row 4 for bottom pixels and row 1 for top pixels, right? And then we're just doing same exact thing where we set bottom pixel dot set color to whatever top pixel is. Bottom pixel dot set color to top pixel, and so on. Same thing here, right? And that is how we give Bob 4 eyes.